we will be giving a gameplay overview and review of the game Oh My Goods, created by Alexander Pfister and published by Lookout Games in 2015. The game plays in 30 minutes, is suggested for ages 10 and up, and accommodates 2 to 4 players. Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode with To Die For Games. I'm Mandi, aka the Board Gaming Pinup Girl. Joining us today are Tracy, the gaming maven, and Stephane, the games teacher. Before we get to the game, I want to send a huge thank you to those who participated in our Dice Tower giveaway with custom game bits. The winners are Netters Play and Anthony Hughes. Congratulations! Please send your address and telephone number to todieforgames@gmail.com and use the subject line giveaway. Now that we've given away fun stuff, we can take a look at the game Oh My Goods. It's set up and ready to go, so let's get to it.
Objective. The players take the role of workers, producing tools, barrels, iron, glass, and many other goods. The player who best manages his or her production chain will gain the most victory points and win the game. Components. 110 cards. 4 charburner cards, 4 worker cards, 8 assistant cards, 26 green wood cards, 17 red clay cards, 17 yellow grain cards, 17 gray wool cards, 17 black ore cards, and the rulebook. Setup. Separate the cards with a light blue border from the rest of the deck. Each player chooses a random charburner card, as well as a worker card. The unused charburners and workers are removed from the game. Next, shuffle all 8 assistant cards. Draw 2 random assistants per player, and place them all face up at the side of the play area. Unused assistants are removed from the game. Shuffle the remaining cards and draw 5 into your hand. Place another 7 cards face down sideways on your charburners. Each card on your charburner represents 1 unit of coal, which is worth 1 coin each. Something important to note. You can use a card in 3 ways. 1, as a resource, with the icon depicted in the middle left side of the card. 2, as the depicted building, or 3, face down on production buildings to represent goods that building produced. Each building color represents a certain resource. There are the same number of buildings in each color, except green, which is more common. Black buildings do not count as production buildings. Instead, they provide a permanent benefit.
How to play. The game is played over several rounds, and each round consists of 4 phases. These phases are played in the following order. 1. New hand cards. 2. Sunrise. 3. Sunset. 4. Produce and build. 1. New hand cards. The active player deals each player 2 cards. There is no hand card limit. When the draw pile runs out of cards, shuffle the discard pile to form a new draw pile. In the unlikely event that both the draw and discard pile are empty, each player must discard half of their cards in the player's hands. 2. Sunrise. The active player turns over cards from the draw pile, placing them in the middle of the play area as the market display, until there are 2 half suns. This means the market is open. Then all players decide simultaneously in which of their buildings they would like to work and what they would like to build in phase 4, the produce and build phase. In order to work, you must take your worker card and place it below one of your production buildings. You have 2 options. You can either produce orderly or sloppily. This is indicated by rotating your worker card so that the appropriate side is on the top. Something to note, if you decide to produce orderly, you will need to have access to all of the resources depicted at the bottom left of the building. By doing so, you will receive 2 goods. Conversely, if you produce sloppily, you will require 1 less resource, but you will only produce 1 good. Not all hope is lost, because in phase 3, additional cards will be placed in the market display so that you may be able to obtain missing resources during that time. You may also play cards from your hand as resources. You can choose a card from your hand that you would like to build. Place this face down in front of you. Also in this phase, if you have assistants that you hired in previous rounds of the game, you can pay 2 coins per assistant and immediately move them to another building.
3. Sunset. The active player turns over cards from the draw pile, placing them in a second row in the market display until there are 2 more half suns. The sun has now set and the market is closed. 4. Produce and build. This phase is played in turn order, beginning with the active player. Each production building requires the resources depicted at the bottom left in order to initiate production. You can either garner these requirements from the market display or by discarding the appropriate card from your hand. The market display remains the same for all players, so you only need to check that the resource that you need is present. If you decide to produce orderly in Phase 2, you need to have available all required resources. If they are, you produce 2 goods, taking 2 cards from the draw pile and placing them face down and sideways on the building. Otherwise, you produce nothing. If you decide to produce sloppily during Phase 2, all but 1 required resource needs to be available. If they are, you produce 1 good. Having an assistant at a building requires all of the depicted resources to produce a single good. You can discard missing resources from your hand as usual. Another fun way to produce is to use the production chain. If a building produces at least 1 good, you can immediately use the production chain depicted at the bottom right any number of times. The production chain shows which resources from hand or which good that you already have that you can place on the production building. This is a good way to refine additional goods on top of normal production. If the production chain shows 2 resources or goods, you must place both depicted items on the building at the same time. Building. You can now build the building you placed face down in front of you during Phase 2. If you cannot or do not want to build it, the card is discarded. If you decide to build it, you must pay its building cost located on the upper left side of the card by discarding goods totaling the values of the discarded goods. After or in place of building, you can hire 1 assistant per round to a maximum of 2 for the game. You must pay the coins and also have the buildings and the colors depicted on the assistant card. Immediately place the assistant at one of your buildings, but remember that you can only have 1 person at each building, either worker or assistant. If you decide to move your assistant, you must pay 2 coins in Phase 2.
Game end. The game ends when any player has 8 buildings in front of them. All players finish the current round and then play 1 more round. All goods in your buildings are converted to the respective coin values, and then each 5 coins are worth 1 victory point. The player with the most victory points wins.
So there you have it, that's Oh My Goods. So guys, what'd you think?
I like the artwork again in this one. The artwork is really popping, very colorful, and it has again a lot of that shading that we have with Grand Austria Hotel, for example, that we just reviewed. So the artwork is right up my alley.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it as well. It kind of reminded me a little bit of that Caverna Agricola feel to it.
Yes.
So maybe that's just the Euro thing, I don't know. But I loved it, so I agree with you on that point. And Stephane, what do you think?
For such a small box, there's a lot of good strategy in the game. I really enjoyed it. One thing that I found, and I found echoed online in some of the comments in the forums, was that some people felt that for some of the more advanced buildings, the game was too short, that you didn't get to take advantage of those advanced buildings. And a relatively simple solution to that is just to add a couple of extra rounds onto the game. So instead of stopping when you have 8 buildings, maybe continue until you have 10. And that might alleviate that somewhat. But otherwise, I really enjoyed the game.
It's funny you say that. I played with somebody from our game group, and he mentioned, and he made a good point, he said there's kind of really no point in purchasing really expensive buildings. He found that you were just as productive buying buildings that were at a lesser cost. And I found some of the buildings that were very expensive, you didn't gain as many victory points.
Yes, the victory point balance didn't increase like the actual cost value did. So yes, more expensive buildings didn't give you more victory points equal to the amount it cost to build them.
But when you do successfully pull off one of those long chain combination production chains, it's really sweet.
Yeah, I didn't have that opportunity, but apparently Stephane did, so I guess that worked for your favorite, so that's great. What else did we find with the game? I was surprised when I saw the box. I was like, oh, okay, another card game. I'm sure it'll be fun. And I was surprised that, wow, it actually has some substance.
Yes, like Harbor and Flip City, which are two other very small, compact games, they're just a tiny little card game. It really packs a lot of punch into the game. Very strategic, but because it is just cards, most people can usually pick up a card game fairly easily. So it's getting the nuances of the strategy with this particular game that makes it good for heavier gamers as well.
And like we did with Grand Austria Hotel, Mandi brought this new game over, we played it, and very shortly thereafter we went and bought our own copy. This has to stop.
I'm sorry!
No, it's okay. Actually, it's okay.
They're just so good.
Yeah.
See what I did there? Anyway, that was really terrible. So, back to the game. I played with one other person, and we had played a three-player game. I found it was very short with 2 players. I don't know if I felt there was enough tension. I don't know, I like a little bit of tension in my game. I think I liked it better at 3. What did you guys think?
I've only played it twice at 3 players, so I did like the 3-player. Haven't played it just the 2 of us,
Okay.
and I haven't played it with 4, so I'm not sure if making a 4th player would make it that right amount of time that they're talking about. So I'd like to give that a try at some point.
Yeah.
Agreed. Having only played it with 3 players, for me, it's been best of 3.
I've heard 4 is the best. And like I said, I've only played it at the 2 and the 3 level, but something else to try for another time. Quality of components. The cards were of standard quality to me, nothing over the top, but they weren't easy to tear. It was good. What did you guys think about that?
The only thing I have is because of it's supposed to be compact, so it's only 110 cards. So with that, you tend to have to shuffle the discard a little bit, especially when people are starting to really kind of hoard the goods. So hoarding the goods in this game kind of makes the pile really small, so less variety of what might come out. So it kind of is just a balancing act with that.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah.
Was it?
Oh, okay. So I think we've covered everything. Have we missed anything, guys?
No?
No? Okay, we're good. So overall, I enjoyed it.
It's in our collection, so I certainly enjoy it.
I bought it, so yeah, I enjoyed it.
So there you go. Thumbs up for this one. So if you don't have it, you need to grab it. Anyways, thanks so much for joining us, and we'll see you next episode. Bye.
Bye.